Hi, my name's Trisha Bolton, and for those of you who don't know me, I used to be a lawyer and now I'm a life coach, and I work with professional women in my one-to-one coaching practice, helping them manage their time so they can stop overworking and still feel successful at work and at home. And first of all, I wanted to thank you for giving up some of your precious time and attending this training today. As a time management coach, I truly believe that time is a precious resource. So I'm hoping that after today, you'll be able to take your first steps towards creating more work-life balance in your life. So today, what's going to happen is I'm going to talk you through the 3 steps, which includes addressing the questions of what is work-life balance for you, why do you want it, and how you can create it. And whilst I'm teaching you about these 3 steps, I'm going to ask you some questions so you can start applying these steps to your own life as we work through. So I don't want you to just sit back and chill on this call. I want you to be using your knowledge and putting it to work. Okay, so let's kick off. Step 1. So, what is work-life balance? We talk about it a lot and we just sort of, seem to believe or accept that we know what it is. So, it may sound like a really obvious question, but I ask you, how do you know if you have work-life balance or if you don't have it unless you know what it looks like? I want you to think about your definition. How would you know that you have work-life balance happening? And maybe if you're struggling to come up with an answer for that question, maybe start with what work-life balance isn't. Like maybe it's what you've actually got happening in your life right now. And use that to examine how what you want would be different. So when you're exploring your definition, there's 3 considerations I want you to have a think about. Everyone's definition of work-life balance is different. We all know people who we may think spend too much time at work. And we also know some people we may think that should go the other way and focus, more of their attention on their work. And what I offer to you is that as humans, our beliefs about what is work-life balance are all different. They may differ depending on our values. If having a close family is really important to you, you may notice that you'll prioritize your home life over your work. And maybe if financial security is a top value, then maybe you'll find yourself spending more time at work. And neither one is right or wrong or better or worse. They're just in alignment with your values. So often when we're craving more work-life balance, it's because how we're spending our time is not in alignment with our values. So do a quick check-in on your work-life balance sort of scales. Are they in alignment with what's important to you? Because another factor I want to flag is how our definition of work-life balance may differ depending on what stage of life we're at. My definition of work-life balance in my 20s, when I was first, starting my new career, looked completely different to my work-life balance in my 30s and 40s when I had kids at home that needed more attention and I had school fees and mortgages and aging parents to care for. So let's acknowledge that it may and, that it's okay for it to change as we grow and change and age. Because we all define it differently. Some people may think about it in the context of time, like hours spent at work, and others may think of it in the context of outcomes that they create that might be related to time. And other people may think of it in other ways. There's no right or wrong definition here. You get to decide. So what do you want it to be? We just want to make sure that whatever you define it as, it's based on your thoughts and your opinions, and we're not using other people's standards. Not so long ago, I noticed I had this story, sort of like I was telling myself that I was spending too much time working. And I thought I was overworking because someone I love and respect started commenting on how many hours I was working. But when I checked in with how I was feeling, I was fine. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't feeling overwhelmed. And yes, in comparison to how much, they were working, it was more. But the most important factor was what I thought and how I felt. I was happy. I was enjoying my work. And I was also showing up in the other parts of my life the way I liked. So there really wasn't a problem unless I adopted their beliefs. Because it's important to get clear about what work-life balance is for us, because then we've got a clear direction so we know where we want to head towards. So I want you to spend some time, you can pause the video, clarifying what it means for you. Don't just skip this step, assuming that you'll know it when you have it, because that's not how it works. We want to intentionally create it and work towards it so that we can have and give ourselves a clear roadmap. So, step 2, we want to get clear on why we want it. Most of us, when we set a goal, we just decide on it and we don't spend any time thinking about why we want it, which is crucial. The reason we do anything is because of how we think it will make us feel. Getting clear about why it's important to you allows you to tap into those positive feelings. Having a strong reason why can be the secret sauce that you can use to create and fuel your motivation to achieve your desired work-life balance. Most of us spend way too much time trying to overcome our lack of motivation to do stuff instead of creating and feeding our motivation to achieve. If your why, your reason, feels strong and compelling, you can use this as fuel to take action to make the necessary changes that you want to achieve more work-life balance. So I want you to pause for a moment and think about it. Why do you want more work-life balance in your life? What will it give you? How will you feel when you have it? When you've answered those questions, let's check in on that why. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really compelling and 1 not so much, how compelling does your why feel for you? If it's not, at the higher end, at a 9 or a 10, what's preventing it from being there? Because if you've tried to create more work-life balance in the past and you've failed, then that could be a clue that your reason for doing it was not compelling enough for you to want to change your existing, behavior patterns. And so this can be a good thing because it's information you can use to start working on enhancing your why. The previous reason wasn't compelling enough. So how can you make it stronger? Because with a strong why, you can use it to help prioritize your work-life commitments. Having a compelling reason why you want to create more work-life balance makes it so much easier for you to prioritize your schedule in a way that supports your goal. If it's important to you, then it's so much easier to get it done. A while back, I made a commitment that as part of my life balance, I wanted to make more time to walk or run every day. I have lower back issues and walking and stretching makes it easier for me to sleep. My health is a priority for me because I know that when I'm healthy, I show up in the world as a better version of me. So for me, part of my compelling reason for making sure I built time into my schedule for walking was my health reasons. So this made it so much easier for me to prioritize it. Because what are the pitfalls of not having a strong why? I've had so many clients come to me disappointed that they haven't been able to create the work-life balance they want. And when we dig deeper, often a major problem is their why doesn't feel very compelling. They want it, but not enough to make changes. And as humans, we need a strong reason to make change because the primitive part of our brain is driven by that motivational triad of seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, and being efficient. And making changes to our lifestyle, it's not efficient. It normally takes energy. And our brain has been designed to survive, and it will instinctually put up resistance to anything that is, going to require energy, work, time. But the good news is we have a prefrontal cortex, a higher thinking part of our brain that can override this primitive part of our brain. And by giving it a compelling reason to use to remind our primitive brain of why we're doing it, we can make it so much easier to overcome that initial resistance. So your why can be a tool that you use when you need it. When your primitive brain wants to keep doing the same thing and throw tantrums about how hard it's to change, that's when we can use our compelling reason why as motivation for us to, start making the changes that we want to see in our lives. So what's step 3? It's all about planning and the importance of pre-planning ahead of time. We need to create a plan. Our plans, I'm sorry to tell you, are inherently lazy and they want to conserve energy. So if we don't give them a direction and decide ahead of time about what we are going to change and how we're going to implement it, then we just end up talking about it as though it's a pipe dream. When you plan ahead of time, you're using your prefrontal cortex, that higher, thinking part of your brain, to work it out. So then when it comes time to, stop work at, say, 5 p.m., when you would usually keep working till 7 p.m., and your primitive brain wants to step in and throw a spanner into the works, you've got it sorted because you've decided ahead of time what your workday looks like. And you can just redirect it to the plan that you created ahead of time. Because something else I want to share with you, what I want you to think about when you're planning is we want to start small. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, talks about one of the ways to set yourself up for success when making habit changes is to make it easy. So I want you to apply the same approach in your planning. Because the problem with starting big is we make it harder to achieve. And then, in the event that we fail, we lose motivation and we start judging ourselves. Because imagine, if you used to work 6 hours a day, maybe, 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and you plan to decrease it to working 4 days a week, 6 hours a day, more than likely you're going to experience a lot more resistance when it comes time to implement, which is going to make it harder for you to achieve your goal. And then when you don't achieve your goal, you're going to become really judgmental of yourself and you're not going to feel as motivated to keep trying. So the alternative of starting small, starting in a way that makes it so easy to succeed that it's a no-brainer, like that's how we can make it easy for ourselves. Gradually increase your changes over time as you get used to sticking to your plan and, enjoying that success in adjusting your work-life balance. When you had those feelings, when you get to experience those feelings of success, you can use those to fuel your future actions. So it becomes this never-ending source of motivation. And something else I want to flag is we want to be realistic, especially in the beginning. Because like starting small, we want to do a reality check on our plan changes when we first start. As humans, we often overestimate what we can get done in a short period of time, and we underestimate what we can do over a longer period of time. And the result is similar to sort of starting big. If we aren't being realistic and aiming to dramatically change how much time we devote to work, we can be setting ourselves up for failure. So it's so much easier to start small and to be realistic. We can continue to make incremental changes over time. It doesn't have to be, done in one go. And planning small, realistic changes over time makes it so much easier for ourselves to achieve our desired, balance. So what's the final piece of the puzzle? It's you. You get to decide what work-life balance is for you. And it's not based on other people's beliefs. You get to decide why it's important to you and to use that compelling reason to support your goal to create more work-life balance for yourself. You get to create a plan that supports your goal of achieving your work-life balance so you can start living more of your life aligned with what's important to you. Because unfortunately, no one's going to create it for you. And if you wait for someone or, something in your circumstances to change, like your kids starting school or maybe finishing school or once you've paid off the mortgage or whatever, more than likely, one day you'll end up in the future still out of balance. Time and resources may become available to you, but unless you're intentional about what you want, you'll just end up filling it up with more of the same. We need to become more intentional about what we want and decide that now is the best time to start creating more balance for ourselves, not someday in the future when we delude ourselves that it will be easier. So it all starts with intention. Taking these 3 steps with intention are the first steps you need to start creating more work-life balance in your life right now. And whilst these, steps are simple to understand, The difficulty is, as always, learning how to apply these simple steps with a brain that may be very used to complicating things. So if you need help applying these 3 steps, that's where I can come in. You can book a time design session with me and we can work through them together. And I can tell you about my time design program, where I help my clients learn how to manage their time so they can stop overworking and still feel successful in their professional and personal lives. In other words, create more work-life balance. So thank you so much for your time, and don't forget to start applying these 3 steps to your life today.